Namaste, Jai Bharat. The tariff which US is imposing all around has shaken many. The geopolitics is getting funny. Many doshe gadruks in Bharat say that this would affect us badly. Of course, it would affect us. But you look at our present day government. Let me tell you very clearly: the Sangh, Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, know how to deal with it. In the sense, we have to take tariffs, and let's be very clear about the kind of tariff which President Trump imposed on Bharat. It's very mild. It's very mild. He takes 26%. He imposes 26%. Whereas, look at how much he imposes on Bangladesh, other neighboring areas, Sri Lanka, Taiwan, Vietnam, all those places. When you compare those tariffs with Bharat, what he imposed on Bharat is too mild, and we are not less. Trump himself says this Bharat is a tough joint to negotiate. We also impose tariffs much more than that. Of course, we have to reduce. There's some discussions, these people are very wise who are ruling Bharat. They're very wise and sensible and emotional, and they are Ashtrawadis. They belong to this nation very much, and they would not do anything that goes against the interest of nation. Rest assured, they will take each step only and only, in capital letters only, in the interest of Rashtra. So that you don't have to bother. There are people breaking their heads after it. They will take care of things. Let's understand it. That's what I'm trying to do. So it's very mild as we compare elsewhere, including Europe and many other nations. Bharat is least affected, nonetheless apparently affected. But now let's see what happens is. Why and how did China become all on a sudden very rich? I'm not telling that they don't have talents. They do have talents. Whether they copy or borrow technology, but they are industrious, hardworking. They don't speak and just speak alone and do nothing. They work hard. And they do have the ability to innovate and go into newer areas. Yes, they are good technologists, good people who would work. They become rich because look at the companies, corporate. See, it's not easy to produce a thing in US or Europe because the cost of production is much more. Their environment, their standards of living, their expenses are much on the higher side. So, the cost of production will be much higher. So, they went China, and China got rich in shortcut. That actually was a mistake, inadvertent mistake from the part of the multinational companies to depend on China. China is all fair. The government is in support of any business, any industry coming. They don't disturb them. There are no strikes. Communism is in some other place. It doesn't come on the way. They are not communists. Speak the truth. They are not communists. They use the name of Marx and communism. So this, of course, once you have industries, they naturally the state becomes rich. People get employed. There's definite amount of revenue to the government without really doing anything. Someone else is doing. But that someone else who is producing in China something which his cost of production is very less, and when he exports, he gets more profit. He can sell things cheaper, low price, and compete with someone whose cost of production is more. Of course, there is one thing with China. This one shortcoming is that they don't look at the quality of the products to beyond a point. But Bharatiya product has a minimum standard of quality. That's there that the world understands. Now there is a China plus one policy. They make in China and also depend on smaller nations like Vietnam, Cambodia, neighbor places, Taiwan, Thailand, etc. where also cheap labor is possible, but the infrastructure as needed by the multinational companies, that's the corporate, may not be that adequate as China provides. So there should be undisturbed power supply. Simple an example. Facilities of road, other facilities should be provided to them. That's not that absolute as China would do. So that's how you find the still shifting, not large scale. Some of the corporates make their offices China plus one. They also have in China plus this place. It's a kind of bifurcation. They make things there. That's also low cost production, and then send it to other nations where the cost of production is more, and they can sell it with less price. Bharat could have competed with China long back, but we did not have stable governments. Our politicians wanted to steal for themselves, make money for themselves. They were not visionaries. They were not lovers of the nation. They were not Rashtrabhakts. They were not Rashtravadis. They were some kind of people who just made a living out of politics. Look at the politicians. How many of the children earn roti through work? They don't. They eat someone's sweat. Eat from someone's sweat. They don't do anything. They don't create anything. They just sit there and do politics and live in luxury. That's the irony of it. Anyway, that's a different issue altogether. So, we do not have a supporting structure in our nation which would attract investors. It's only now, last 10 years, when Rashtrabadis are in authority, we could create an environment where people could come, fearlessly work, and continuously consistent support. They would get stable government. All those things we could give. No topsy-turvy, not like Pakistan. Sometimes democracy they call, which is not democracy. Then it is mullah rule. Then it is military rule. All those things. Bangladesh also is like that. So that stability we have of democracy, but should be more accountable to those who come here to invest. So with this tariffs, what's going to happen? I would cut short. With this tariffs, what's going to happen is things produced in China would start costing more abroad, some other other places, with the more tariff. And China's plus, as per China's plus one policy, things getting produced in Cambodia or Vietnam, they could sell that cheap, but then there is sanction at these places on much more higher scale than what's in China. So they would also become costly. So things are becoming costly, then the companies will have to look for a place where they can produce cheap and sell cheaper. Bharat is the only option. It's not the option. And the quality of the products of Bharat is much better than these other China plus one creators. Our product is better. We have a sensible workforce, intelligent also, disciplined also, and the government today now supports all those things also, because the government knows our people will get job with these companies. We support them, and they produce it with effective production cost, and they would sell it with effective cost and make profit reasonably well. Good products, good quality things. So, though the tariff imposed now may be startling to a common person in Bharat, it's actually a blessing in disguise, or an advanced kind of blessing in time. In time, these companies could easily move into Bharat to produce, and that would give us more revenue. Nation gets revenue. Nation gets revenue. The Nehruvian borrowed socialistic principles from Soviet Union is no longer to be used. They're shown as big failure. Communism itself is a failure, because communism is only a fantastic dream. Fantastic dream of Marx, which has postulates which are not very legitimate. He puts his postulates on certain things, which really is not the case. Otherwise, it was a built up is good, but the substructure is absolutely shaky. It doesn't stand. So communism was bound to collapse, and it did collapse. It's nowhere in the world, except China. They call themselves communists, but they are really not communists. They are capitalists. They use the name as communism, but then they function as capitalists. So they prosper, and they do well. So our nation also can do well. Nehru's socialism and all kinds of things destroyed our nation, did not allow us to go forward in time. Now things are different. Here, so this in another 20 years, 25 years time to come, this nation is going to be a place with lots of opportunities and development, because things can be produced with less cost here and better quality. Then it's possible that people would make one of their choices Bharat. Nobody will make only one place choice. They will have 1+1 or 2, 1+1+1, different places. But one other choice should be that in Bharat. So that would develop our economy. Our people would get employment. Money flows to the society. Our purchasing power gets more. So overall, it should be comfortable society. See, the ideal situation is that I used to see my students in the class. See, the situation in Gujarat I've seen is that a student who does study, in normal cases, he need not to go outside his district to look for a job. He'll get a job. When he wants a better job, high-paying job, let him work here. Then he can shift. That also he needed to go out to the district, his own district. So a student who is graduating would normally get a job in his own district, if not in his hometown. That kind of facilities are available in the state of Gujarat. He need not to go for a job 1,200 kilometers away from his home. He need not. So that much developed the state is infrastructurally. Such should be the case in Bharat. One needed to go from one corner of the nation to another corner of the nation to find bread and job. Things would be better in another 25 years of time. I don't think people will go out of Bharat to get a job. On the other hand, people will come from outside. Those who went abroad would normally come back to settle in their own places. So future is not bad. Future is promising. And the tariff which US is imposing, or the President Trump has planned, is actually helping Bharat to go forward. We'll have to do our share, our part of work. We will. Sensible people are sitting at the helm. They will do things. And in another 20-25 years of time, this nation will be one of the most powerful in the world, economically. And the people will live happily instead of turning into terrorism and destruction and devastation. That should be that's how our nation will prosper. We shall meet again with some other thought. Till the next. Namaste. Jai Bharat, Jai Shri Ram.